Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
I read something interesting on that. That was, the International Trade Commission, ITC, which is an independent, nonpartisan commission, estimated that the USMCA will have a greater impact on the U.S. economy, jobs, and wages than any other trade agreement it has ever reviewed. Projected to raise GDP by 0.3% and had 176,000 jobs. I mean, we were just talking the other day with, who was it, Andrew? We were talking about what seemed like a mismanagement of Trump's campaign, just focusing on some of the wrong. Oh, it was Stephen Mansfield.
Stephen, yeah.
We were just discussing Trump and how he definitely has his share of haters and everything. But when you look over some of the things he did, UMCA being one of them, like, why wasn't that talked about? The fact that that was the best trade agreement ITC has ever seen. You know, it just wasn't. It wasn't at the level of consciousness in America.
Well, I think that sometimes his communication style doesn't lend to one, and he did a bad job in that one debate where it was more argumentative and attack. And I think that if he had taken that tack, the more argumentative he was, the more it fed into this out of control, kind of crazy guy, whatever. It's his style. He didn't change.
Yeah.
For the whole 4 years, he didn't change. But you know what? I do think that there were a lot of positives that came out of that administration. I'm not sure that it was especially in the first 2 years, that it was a very stable administration, and it looked very scary at times with people going in and out, going in and out. But quite frankly, a lot of it was due to the fault of the Republicans. The Republican establishment was kind of either shunned him from actually participating in the administration. That was the first thing. But then when they did, or at least the people that he ended up having to rely on, they were sort of anti the administration while they're in the administration. I mean, at some point we had to remind people that actually, when you work for the president, he does say the final word. I mean, really, we have to remind you of that? When did that become like a debatable issue, But it's kind of funny, some of the stuff that came out of this. But I think that being an outsider into a system was challenging.
Yeah.
Neither party liked it, and you have to think about the Republican Party has changed forever. They can't go back because there's no base to go back to. Once people latched onto this, all they have to do now is figure out a way how to get rid of the racist label that people keep throwing on them.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have a problem too. Both parties have a problem. The other side is that you really can't be the party that's known for socialism in this country.
Yeah.
It's not a winning argument. We don't have a single place in the world we can point to where socialism actually benefited people.
But people don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that it isn't a winning argument in this country.
Look,
and if it almost is now, how about 4 years from now? How about 8 years from now? If we keep heading this direction, at some point it is going to be a winning argument, even though there's all kinds of objective data around us, including what different states are doing and how that's working out for them. But then you can go beyond that and look at what other countries are doing. But people aren't paying attention to that.
So first of all, they don't understand socialism, and when they say socialism, they don't actually mean socialism. So here's what they mean. Socialism is where the central power controls the means of production and the allocating of resources. They say socialism as somehow to equalize and make a fair economic system. In other words, a better distribution of wages. Well, you can't do that through socialism. I mean, you can do it through welfare, which is socialism, but it's going to take a lot of welfare to bring up to $55,000, $65,000 a year.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yep.
A good paying job comes with insurance, and you save your 401k and you have a pension. That's the life. That's what we should be selling in America. And I disagree with you. I think that there are a lot of people that you base your opinion on that socialism works for them, because they grew up they're just kind of brainwashed by the idea that it's all unfair, this and that and the other. But I can tell you one thing: almost all immigrants know socialism is the wrong way to go because they came from it.
I agree with that
Okay, they
100%.
came from
Yeah.
countries that are everybody's trying to mention. Why do you think in Spanish community, Mexican community bordering Mexico ends up going for Trump? He's the racist that's building a wall. Why are you
Yep.
voting for him?
Yep.
You know, why does he get the Cuban vote? You know, it's because they came here to escape that.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't take much. You know, yeah, a lot of young people can do a lot of stupid things in school. I learned some stupid things. I came out of school as a bleeding heart liberal, you know, and I just kept trying to make it work, and it just wouldn't work, wouldn't add up. You know, the incentive is what makes things work. You have to have capitalist incentive to create innovation that creates jobs. You know, socialism did not bring you the Apple phone. Capitalism did.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and what are we seeing in Iran? Iran doesn't have enough money to invest to even produce the oil that they have in the ground. Venezuela, same thing. These countries, Venezuela flipped into socialism at a point when it was a rich country that had a lot of oil because it was going to use that oil to benefit the little guy. Okay? And all of a sudden they flip it, and 50 years later, where are they? You don't think America would be in the same place if it flipped to socialism today? Absolutely. We wouldn't have anything 50 years from now.
I totally agree with it.
Yeah.
Look, I totally agree with what you're saying, but I think there's a lot of Americans that aren't thinking in those terms. They're thinking, how can I make this a little bit better for me without having to actually go work a little bit harder? I mean,
maybe so. I'm sure there are people that believe in a lot of things, but the way they voted on November 3rd, socialism did not win.
yeah.
That's what's important.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Brian Buffini is an immigrant from Ireland.
You know, one way to make my blood boil is to talk about socialism and bringing in systems that immigrants escaped.
Yeah.
Okay, that is because I'm an immigrant. I'm a first generation immigrant. I was fortunate to come to this country, and it makes me fearful, sad to think that all of a sudden we're going to have a state where it's political whether the cops show up or not. What laws are going to be enforced is going to be political, or what's popular by the current mayor. Okay, this whole move to bring control over the police department. I want the Constitution to control the police department, not the local mayor. You know, that's where we're failing. Okay, I don't want. There shouldn't even be a debate. If I'm in trouble, I can get whatever law firm I want to get. That is a fundamental right in America. I cannot believe that people are getting away with vilifying people for simply getting representation in court. Isn't that what a murderer gets? That.
Yeah.
You can murder somebody and get protection, and the government would pay for it. But if you go out and get your own protection and pay for it yourself, you're going to be attacked. And now we're going to talk socialism in this country. It's kind of like finding your best asset and cutting it off.
Yes. Well, it's not kind of like it. It is like it. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is.
Where's Palo Alto? How many jobs? How many jobs has Microsoft created? People look at the wealth of these billionaires like it's coming out of their pocket. It didn't come out of your pocket. Money multiplies. That is capital that now he is investing in all kinds of things, including better life for a lot of African people, including energy research in the United States, venture capital, everything else. Capital is not the enemy. You know, you don't solve the wage problem by taxing capital. You solve the wage problem by creating the jobs that pay higher wages. And yes, you might have to do it through some protectionism or better trade deals. I agree with that. We don't live in a... That's not a criticism of capitalism. Saying we need regulations is not a criticism of capitalism because we're not in a free trade, free-for-all capitalism. We're not in that, okay? So if we were, and you were saying, oh, it's not working, then I would say, okay, then that's a failure. If it's right, but we're not there. We're in managed trade. We're working with other countries that are basically, at best, managing their trade with us. At worst, they're actually prying on our jobs. They are actively engineering ways to steal our jobs. Okay, and some of our leaders in the past have participated and aided in that happening
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't care. It doesn't matter. It's business. We're doing business.
Yep.
But you're
Well,
doing business on the backs of Americans that now can't afford their health insurance.
yeah. Well, it's not just business. Sometimes they're paid large sums of money, right? Through
Absolutely.
lobbyists,
Yeah.
and they go through multiple layers of protection to make sure that it's not clear that another country is
Yeah.
funding the lobbyists. But sometimes international money does work its way in here and works its way
Yeah.
through the lobbyists, and now you have politicians
Can't you
making
bring
decisions.
up another point is, capitalism, things get allocated relatively efficiently in capitalism. I really believe that. Government is not what even democratic government is the anti-capitalism because it's allocating resources based on influence, based on those things that you just mentioned.
Right.
So moving to a socialist system means getting rid of any efficient allocation of capital and moving to a system where oligarch and people like Putin would actually allocate the resources of a society and how things are being spent. I mean, that's asinine,
Yeah.
to even be considering that when we have what we have.
Yes. Well, didn't that exactly happen with the Alibaba founder in China? They kind of raised him up and then send him to Germany.
Yeah, and they
Took over his company?
Well, they put an ant IPO. It was supposed to be the biggest IPO ever in the world, and they scrapped it because he made a speech that said our financial institutions are backwards and they need to be more innovative and challenged, and they put him down, buddy. They X'd that. That IPO did not happen.
This was Chinese IPO?
Yeah,
Oh,
Chinese
okay.
IPO. Yeah.